Operations with File Hills Qu'Appelle Tribal Council. Happy Friday. And on Friday in my household we make homemade pizza. That's kind of our special treat for the week, and today I thought I would share the recipe with you. So we're gonna get started, and the first thing that we are going to do is we're gonna feed the yeast. So I have 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of water in here, and I put it in the microwave for about 30 seconds, and we want it to be warm but not hot, so nice and warm to the touch, but if it's too hot it will kill the yeast, so just make sure that it's just warm to the touch. Next we are going to put 1.5 tablespoons of sugar in the water, and this is going to be the food for our yeast. So that's 1 tablespoon and a half. So today we have one of these little packages of yeast, and they have about 2.25 teaspoons of yeast in one package. We only really need about 1.5 teaspoons, so I'm not going to use the whole package. You probably could, just because there won't be very much left, and you might not want to waste it. So I'm just going to put most of it in there. And if you have a bigger container of yeast at home, it's easier to just measure with a 1.5 teaspoons. But for those of you who might not be experienced with baking, sometimes it's nice to just get these little bit of packages, and then if you don't get into it, then you don't have any going to waste after the 6 months after they expire. So now I am going to stir it up a little bit. The water gets a little bit milky here, and then we are going to let the yeast and the sugar and the water rest for about 5 minutes. So sometimes I set a timer just so that I keep myself on track, but I have one more step that I can do while the yeast is sitting, and what's going to happen is it will foam up probably about 1 inch, 1.5 inches, and that's when you know it's ready and it's been activated. So our other step that we can do is to put the flour in our bowl here. So we will need a total of 3 cups of flour about, but we're just gonna start with 1 cup. I like to shake it and not pack it down too tightly so that it still has some air. So we'll put our 1 cup of flour in the bowl while we're waiting. Okay, so in addition to our 1 cup of flour, we need to add 1 teaspoon of salt, and we'll just mix it up so that the salt gets distributed into the flour. Okay, so our yeast got nice and foamy there, and it is ready to add to our flour. We're going to add 1.5 tablespoons of oil to the yeast mixture, and then add the yeast mixture to our flour and salt. Just pour it all in there. And mix together. And it'll start to form kind of a paste, but still quite thin at this point. Don't worry about if there's any lumps or chunks in there right now. We'll get rid of that in a bit. So this recipe asks for a total of about 3 cups of flour. So now we are going to add that in 1/2 cup increments, just so that we can get it nice and mixed in. You can see it's starting to get thickened up. And once it gets too thick and sticky to use the wooden spoon or spatula, we can switch to our hands. So I find working with clean hands and pizza dough works better than anything else. I used to be a little bit intimidated by baking, and I think a lot of people share that kind of feeling, but it just takes some getting used to and some practice, and this is a really easy recipe, but not every pizza recipe that I've tried has turned out. So this is my favorite pizza dough recipe for a reason, because it turns out every single time. So another half cup of flour. One thing that I haven't done with this recipe is experiment with whole wheat flour. That's something I'd like to try in the future. Usually the rule of thumb for that is about 1/3 to 1/2 whole wheat flour to white flour in a recipe. So if I were going to try this with whole wheat flour, I'd probably do 1 cup of whole wheat flour to 2 cups of white flour to start, and then kind of experiment from there. So it's starting to form a ball here, but it's still very sticky. And we have a little bit more flour to add. So you just kind of keep adding until it's not so sticky. When you start having to use your arm muscles, that's when you know it's time to switch to using your hands instead. Still very sticky, but you can add the rest of the flour in. And fold the dough over. I'll try and... So you fold a little bit over, add some more flour, fold a little bit, and you'll know when it starts to get easy to work with. You know when you start kneading and it's not as sticky, that's when it's time to fully start kneading it. And this recipe, it doesn't take a lot of kneading, just enough to get it so that a ball will form. So I think I'm gonna try that. And so I kind of just pull one end and give it a little bit of a punch, and just keep doing that until it doesn't look so ragged, until it looks more smooth. You can take some of the flour from the sides of the bowl if you need it at this point. So just kind of working from the outside in, sprinkling flour when needed if it gets sticky again. And that's pretty much the perfect consistency. So when you can pick it up and tuck in the bottom to form a ball. It might start getting sticky once the middle is exposed, so just kind of pat it on that flour again. And if you need more, take more. I put about 3.5, 4 cups beside me here so that I don't have to keep digging in the flour bag or wherever you have your flour. So now it's just kind of to get that ball shape. And there's a few things you can do with this pizza dough. So if you don't want to make pizza today, or you've made extra, you can wrap it with saran or plastic wrap and put it in the freezer, and then use it when you're ready. You can let it rise right now in a warm place. So I'm going to put it in the oven with the light on and a warm damp towel over top for about an hour, and then you can bake it right away, or you can leave it in the fridge overnight for 12 to 24 hours, and then it'll be ready the next day. I'm going to put it in a new bowl, a clean bowl, with some Pam. If you just have oil at home, you can put it on your fingers or on a paper towel and just wipe it around the bowl. So we're gonna put our ball of pizza dough in there, and then I like to add a little bit of oil on top too. And this is really important if you're going to be putting it in the fridge overnight, because it just prevents the dough from getting dried out. So I just pat the oil on the dough, and there it is. And so now we are going to put it in the oven with the light on for about an hour or until the dough doubles in size. And now for the big reveal. So we took it out of the oven. It just had the light on, no heat. And so our dough has doubled in size. If we were going to prepare it right now, which we are going to do, we'll roll it out on a floured surface. If you wanted to have your pizza the next day, you would have let it rise for about 20 minutes, the same way that we did, and then covered it with a lid or saran or your towel, and put it in the fridge for 12 hours, overnight, 24 hours, and even up to 48 hours. Or you would have put the dough directly in saran wrap and put it in the freezer. So we will flour our surface. And put a little bit of flour on our rolling pin. If you don't have a rolling pin, that is totally fine. Today we're going to make individual pizzas, 4 of them. Usually what I do with this dough is just put it on a cookie sheet, a regular size cookie sheet, and just press it down with my fingers until it covers the entire cookie sheet, and then put it in the oven. For individual pizzas, I'm going to make 4 balls, so separate 4 pieces out of our larger ball here. And then I'm just going to roll them out. So we'll start with this one. It depends on what my family's feeling. If we all want to make our own with our own toppings and flavorings, or if we can all agree on the kind that we want, then we can do a big one and share. So I've been trying out some interesting new recipes for pizza lately. One has been breakfast pizza. So I put some scrambled eggs and bacon and cheese on top, and that was a hit. We've been doing buffalo chicken, so just chicken and some buffalo sauce and some cheese, green pepper and some onion. Sometimes we do just a regular ham cheese, but there's some debate about pineapple in my house. Okay, so we'll try and make it into as circular as we can. It's not too big of a deal if you don't get it, exact. So I'm going to put, I think, 2 on each pan. These ones are a little bit bigger, these pans, so probably bigger than what you have at home. But we want to still make sure there is room for the pizza to rise a little bit more in the oven and spread out a little bit as well. So I've greased the cookie sheet here with some ham. Again, if you don't have any cooking oil spray, you can just use a piece of paper towel with some oil, or just use your hands to make sure that It doesn't stick. And another thing that works really well is parchment paper if you have it. So lots of options. So here's our second individual pizza. And it's pretty pliable or easy to form. Another way you can do it is just by holding it and circling it in your hands. It's gonna stretch that way too. So sometimes people find that easier to shape it how they want it as well. So we've got our 2 individual pizzas. And so what I usually like to do is cook the pizzas first and then add my toppings. So I'm gonna cook it at 375 for 10 to 12 minutes, depending on how hot your oven is. And then I'm gonna take it out and put my sauce and my toppings on, cheese, and then put it back in the oven for about 3 to 5 minutes at the 375. And then if the cheese still needs some melting, then we're just going to broil it until the cheese is all melted, and that should be good. So we'll put these in the oven. I've preheated the oven to 375. And they're not perfect, they're not a perfect shape, and that's okay. Okay, so we have one batch done, and they took 12 minutes at 375. And so your next steps would be to add your sauce and your toppings, your cheese, and then put them back in the oven at 375 for about 5 minutes, and then change it to broil on low just until your cheese melts fully, how you like it. So some people like it a little bit more browned, and some people just until it's slightly melted. So you choose. And our other batch is in the oven. I usually do it just on a regular size cookie sheet and pat it out to the sides. And if it doesn't make it to the sides of the cookie sheet, I leave it for about 15 more minutes. It gives it a chance to rise a little bit more, and so then I have more dough to work with. And then I keep stretching it out and pushing it to the edges until it meets all the corners and the sides, and then I would cook it the exact same way in the oven. So thank you for baking with me today, and I hope you give it a try. I hope I showed you that it's pretty quick and easy and versatile. You can do it however you like. Thanks for watching.